Greenlightnetwork presents Football Time.
Hey, and welcome to the Football Time Show. We're here live to give our best bets and picks for Week 6. Everybody is fully recovered and fully healthy from a 2-week virus period that went between one to the other. So I at least have a voice this week. You at least have some energy this week, and we finally get a show out the way. So with us, as always, is Achilles, ready to get into the Week 6 picks. Are you ready to get into Week 6?
Yeah, man. Let's get into some football. We missed last week, but to be honest, last week was kind of bad for picks. So let's get going. Let's make some money.
Not only that, we missed ripping every coach who doesn't know how to game manage a football game. Hopefully, we can have a mega-sode sometime this week, and I'm sure it will not be the last time that every coach has some sort of analytical meltdown about having to go for it or score management. But let's kick things off. In Week 6, let's go to a game I really don't have a lot of bets on, really none, but I am wanting to probably lean one way, but I just haven't been able to pull the trigger. New England Patriots, Cleveland Browns. I was a little shocked here. Cleveland Browns come out as a 2.5-point favorite here. What did you make of this line? Because I initially saw it. I think I wanted to go New England, but the more I thought about it, this just feels like one of those weird games where Cleveland wins, but I don't know if I'm quite aggressive enough to really grab onto Cleveland yet. How do you see this game?
I mean, I think if you look at last week's performance from New England, you're probably wondering why is it that Cleveland's favored here. But I think that on paper, Cleveland's just a better team. Not to mention the fact that they've actually been winning even with their backup quarterback. Now, the big news from Cleveland was the fact that Deshaun Watson was able to get back into the locker room, and slowly but surely he's going to start kind of being able to do a little bit more. He's going to get to the point where he's going to be able to practice with this team and be able to actually do some other things. So it's progressing, but this Cleveland team is doing exactly what we said they needed to do, which is win enough games to stay competitive so that when he does get back, they can try and make a run at it. And they're doing a really good job. I think when I'm looking at this spread, which is 2.5 for Cleveland.
Yes.
I think it really has to do with the fact that, in my opinion, both defenses here can cause fits for the opposing offenses. But I think that Cleveland's probably a better all-around defense. And not to mention the fact they've got a pretty good running attack. So they don't really need to rely too much on the quarterback to get them points. They can pretty much ground and pound and play solid defense. And I think that's what Vegas was looking at. Plus the fact that they're at home also helps a little bit. So I'm not too surprised by it. But just like you, I also don't have a lot of plays for this game.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of plays either. I thought it would... Something tells me this is going to be one of those games where we get a good Cleveland defense performance, even though we haven't really gotten one of those basically since the first week of the season. If you look like they're at their DVOA and a lot of different metrics, their defense has actually been down towards the worst in the NFL. You have the weird thing with, Jacoby Brissett, who's thrown 3 picks this year. You're going, oh, good, except all 3 of those 3 picks have come in the final 3 minutes of the fourth quarter when he's trying to bring his team back to a comeback. So it's just it's a little weird to want to ride Cleveland here, especially since I've sort of been riding against them all season long. But it feels like one of those games where we get a good pop-up Cleveland performance. I will say I've been really, really impressed with New England's defense. It's really sort of... It's been able to really put these mediocre teams, and right now there are so many mediocre teams in the NFL that they've been able to control games. I don't know how, their defense will do against some of the elite, teams, but I think right now, defensively, New England's been ahead of the curve, which is probably what has, sort of led me not to really grab the Cleveland Browns. So overall, do you have any bets in this game? I ended up going blankless because I didn't end up grabbing the Cleveland Browns. You have anything in New England, Cleveland you like?
I've got two, and one I feel a little more confident than the other, so I'll give them to you in order based off confidence. I'm taking the under 43 here at minus 110. And simply put, again, I just don't think that both of these offenses can muster up enough strength to go against the opposing defense. Now, you did mention the fact that Cleveland's defense hasn't been that great, but realistically, their passing defense is what's been better than their rushing defense. The rushing defense, I believe, they've given up the fourth most points to opposing scores to opposing running backs. So I think that you can implement a good rushing attack in this game from both offenses, and the defenses can do enough to just kind of keep this game going very slowly, which is why I like the under 43 in this one. And the other one that I'm not too confident in, which I'm taking either way, I'm taking the Browns minus 2.5 at home. I think that it's probably the safest play for this game. So again, not a lot of plays, not a lot of prop bets in this one, but this is probably what I felt was probably most likely hit out of all these bets.
Yeah, I really did like that under. I will say I thought 42 was a little low, so I really think I grabbed that one. I thought this might be reach that 39 territory, especially when you think these two teams really probably won't be real aggressive passing wise since the Western Kentucky kid took over for New England. They haven't been real aggressive. They've gone back to sort of their early season Mac Jones style of last year, where they sort of protected him and done short easy percentage throws, and basically Cleveland never wants to throw the ball if they don't have to. So I really do like that under. I think that's a good play.
But you know what, though? So not to cut you off, I just want to say I do understand where you're coming from. I do have the feeling, as I'm looking at my picks, I'm like, this is just bound to burn me. And I've got that feeling, and which is why I'm not super confident in these picks. But again, this is out of all the picks that I was looking at, these are the two that I feel the most confident in.
Yeah, I think so. I thought about doing a same game parlay of the under and Cleveland and seeing if I could get a little juice on that, but I just thought that would be stupid. Just take the under. I think maybe I could talk myself into it, but I do like that under there. All right, we'll move on to that one, and we'll move on to one of my favorite bets of the day. Probably been my favorite team to take all season long, and they've rewarded me all season long. We're going San Francisco 49ers versus the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons, once again, getting 5.5 points here at home. San Francisco on the road, East Coast for a second straight week, and they have a ton of defensive injuries. I know they say Bosa might play, but I don't think he'll be 100%. Kinlaw, amongst others, are all out in this. So, I really love this plus 5.5. What do you make of this one? San Francisco, solid win versus Carolina, but they didn't even beat them up as much as I thought they would. So I love this 5.5. Atlanta, again, last week showed they could play with the Bucs, and if not for a sort of BS roughing the passer penalty, I think they go on and might win that game.
See, my big issue is how is this team going to perform without their most efficient weapon on offense? That's my biggest concern. Is I really don't know what they're going to bring to the table. Now, I know that there's some injuries concerning the San Francisco 49ers defense, but we've seen time and time again this San Francisco team is pretty good at plug and play. Now, I know that it's hard to replace a lot of big star names, but I think that if any team is able to do it, it's probably this team. And I also think, even though the game's in Atlanta, I still think that San Francisco does a pretty good job at kind of playing on the road here. I do have a few plays on this game. Again, not that I'm too confident, it's simply because of all the injuries in both of these teams. But I have a few plays here, and I'm on the opposite side of you. I did think about taking that Atlanta, but I found San Francisco at minus 4.5. And again, I'm a little more confident in San Francisco than I am in Atlanta. I know that Atlanta's been doing a really good job, better than a lot of us anticipated, but I'm going to go with San Francisco here at minus 4.5. A couple other plays I've got here. I've got George Kittle. I think he's due anytime touchdown at plus 180.
You and your tight end anytime touchdowns. Are we
Listen,
getting a Tyler
we haven't
Higbee
seen
anytime touchdown this week?
And you know what? I can't see off the top of my – no, there's no Higbee this week, which is the week it'll hit.
Yes, of course it will.
So I've got Kittle. Listen, he's a big part of that offense. Now, we haven't seen him being utilized obviously as much because of injuries, and Jimmy G's come back into the fold. So there's a whole lot of transitioning going on with that team, but I still like Kittle here. I think anytime TD plus 180 is pretty good odds there. And then I've got also Wilson, first touchdown for San Francisco at plus 375. Now, it doesn't have to be the first touchdown of the game, just the first one for San Francisco. I've also got Marcus Mariota, which now I'm a little hesitant on this one because of the players that aren't going to play in this game, but I'm going to roll with it anyway since I've got it up here. Marcus Mariota over half an interception at plus 105. This San Francisco defense has proven that they're really tough to score on, and not just that, they can get after the quarterback and cost fits back there. So I kind of like this one, even with all the injuries. And my last one here for this game, Deebo Samuel over 16.5 rushing yards at minus 110. We know he's going to run the ball. They love to utilize him in all kinds of gadget plays. So I think that's a pretty safe bet, especially going up against an Atlanta defense that isn't quite known for stopping the opposing teams.
Yeah, I got a couple in here. I already mentioned how much I really liked Atlanta. I got Atlanta plus a 5.5. I got 500 on that one. I'm going to go and throw a little on the Atlanta money line at 2-1. I think this feels like one of those banana peel games at San Francisco. We just look back and like, how did they lose this? And it's just one of those they lose. And so plus 200, I got 125 on that. And then we're going to go Tyler Algier. We're going to go Tyler Algier, touchdown score. He's at plus 175. I know this Niners defense has been just ridiculous so far this season, but I think with these injuries, and the way Atlanta's sort of just been able to run the ball on pretty much everybody, they even did a solid job last week for Tampa Bay. So plus 175 for Tyler Algier, touchdown score, 62.50 on that one. All right, let's go to the Falcons' opponent last week. Tampa Bay Bucks go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This one's an interesting one because it's one of those where you don't want to take the road touchdown favorite here, but it's very hard.
Did you see them last week?
It's very, very difficult to talk yourself, one, into taking Pittsburgh in this game, and two, thinking they can even remain close. Magically, it was not Mitch Trubisky that was bad. Guess what? Kenny Pickett isn't all that good either. Their line is terrible.
It's early.
Their line is terrible. Their defense isn't worth that much. I don't know if you can talk yourself into taking Tampa Bay because the spread's so big. And really, Tampa Bay hasn't played good football all year long. On the road, I get it. But what do you make of this Tampa Bay Bucks Pittsburgh Steelers one?
Listen, you pretty much called it, man. This is one of those games where, I look at Pittsburgh performance. Now, I've been one of the staunchest defenders of Pittsburgh. And even when Trubisky was starting, I thought Trubisky could kind of turn it around, coming off the pretty bad couple seasons he had. And I thought that they'd be able to keep up even without Watt in the lineup. And obviously that hasn't proven so. Now, last week, we didn't get to do a show because of, illnesses and timing and all that stuff. But I actually had Pittsburgh plus 10.5. And I said, there's a good chance they could probably at least keep it close and try and cover the spread. They lost by, 30-something points. Now, I know that Tampa Bay is not Buffalo. That's pretty obvious. But I still think that if they're going to be able to play against anybody, it's probably not going to be a team like Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. So I've got Tampa Bay -6 for the first half here at -110. I've got a prop bet, Leonard Fournette over 62.5 rushing yards at -115. And I'm also going to go ahead and ride the under on this one, under 46. And simply because I don't know if Pittsburgh can put up any points.
I don't know if Tampa can either. So,
well, I mean, they managed to put some up. Now, I know it wasn't up against the Pittsburgh defense, if you can call it that, last week, but they were able to put up some points last week. And it seems like Brady's starting to kind of get into a little bit of rapport with his offense. They're starting to gel again. They had a bunch of injuries early on the season, and they're starting to get healthy now. The issue now is that they've got guys suspended for other reasons that I feel like they could take a pretty early lead and pull off that one. Taking Fournette over 62.5 rushing yards. They're probably going to have to pound him a lot. and I'm taking the under 46 just because I don't know how much either of these teams can score, especially Pittsburgh's offense the way they looked last week.
Well, here's a note. Unders in the NFL. You probably should be taking them because everything's going under right now.
It's been such a weird year for the NFL, man. Normally by week 3, we kind of start to level out a little bit, but it seems like this year it's going to be all year long.
No, the muck pile of mediocre to okay teams is literally like 28, and there are like 4 really bad teams and maybe 3 really good teams, probably 2.
Maybe 2.
So I got a couple in this one. They're both player ones. One, Mike Evans to score. It was plus 115. Now, granted, I just made the bet for my wife about 15 minutes before we were about to go on air. It's down to it's down to minus 110 now. So, but I still think minus 110. Mike Evans, it's probably actually a better play than taking the 7.5 spread, because I don't know if Tom Brady throws to anyone else down there on the goal line anymore. So Evans touchdown, plus 115. And then Chris Godwin, 61.5 yards. The one thing I did watch last week in that Atlanta game, Godwin looked much better than he had looked, in that first game back before he got hurt, and then in that game that he came back where he still looked a little banged up. That was the best I'd seen him sort of play in the slot. I think he'll have big yardage this week and be able to catch a lot of balls in that slot. So I got Godwin over 61.5 yards, minus 115. I got 250 on both those, on Mike Evans touchdown and Chris Godwin over 61.5. No plays on this one, spread wise or on the total. You should just be playing unders basically every NFL game there is, except maybe ones that Buffalo is attached to. But the problem with that is the other team doesn't tend to score, so the under hits in that as well. So I was a little worried about maybe this turns into Tampa Bay blowout, and that's the only reason why I like the Fournette one, because I do feel like it could turn into a blowout. I mean, Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken, is 32nd in the league and yards to opposing wide receivers and touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. So it doesn't bode well for their team. If there's a good opportunity to give a big place to Godwin or Evans. Yeah. And then what's it going to come to? It's going to come to just pound the rock, try to drain out this clock. So that's the reason why I took the Fournette. Yeah. Let's go to the next one, and I will say I had to pull my bet off this one. I really wanted to do this one. Cincinnati Bengals at the New Orleans Saints. It was at 2.5. I haven't looked to update since they ruled Olive out, and once they ruled Olive out,
I didn't even get a chance to look at that this morning. I was too busy trying to go out to breakfast, celebrate that big UT win last night.
Yeah, well, when we were discussing our DraftKings pool with David, we wanted the Saints in there because I just love the Saints. Plus 2.5 at home, and then I got home and I read Olive's out, and that would be the 3 of their top 3 receivers out in this game. So basically it's smash Taysom Hill ahead, dump the ball off to Alvin Kamara, and hope. So I sort of, last minute decision, I had to pull out of the Saints plus, because I still like it, because, even from what we saw from this Bengals team, speaking of game mismanagement, last week, Zach Taylor, back into our good graces on poor coaching decisions after, I guess, a year brain transplant for when he went to the Super Bowl. But I don't know. I haven't liked anything I've seen from this Bengals team. So I thought going into New Orleans and New Orleans getting plus was really, really good. But without any of the top receivers, I probably just can't pull the trigger on the Saints. What are you looking at in this one?
I had 2 bets. That's all I had for this game. I had a prop bet and I had a straight bet. And I mean, this is breaking news to me. I was really, like I said, I was enjoying some good Eggs Benedict this morning, and I had no clue that he was out. But I guess I'm going to have to retract that one. I had him for the first touchdown of the game at plus 600 for New Orleans, not first touchdown of the game period, for New Orleans. at plus 600. But I guess that one's got to get canceled now. And I'm going to switch this one up. I don't normally just kind of fly off the tip here, but with all those guys out, I'm just going to go ahead and write the Bengals at -3. I'm on the opposite side of you. I do think that they've struggled and they have issues with their coaching and time management and game planning, but I do think that they're getting better. The offensive line seems to kind of week in, week out, seems to get slightly better. Now, they're not still where they expect it to be or where they want it to be, but they are getting better, and they still have a lot of weapons on offense. So I'm going to go ahead and ride the Bengals here, -3, and this is just literally just off the gun, just based off the breaking news from my NFL insider, Champ Chesterfield.
Yeah, I will say it. A couple Chris Olave props, had to scratch those, and I had to scratch my bet for the Saints plus. So we're going on an empty set on this game. Quiet audible. I guess that's the good thing about doing this show an hour and a half before the game, because this would have been a Thursday special and I would have had to cancel all those bets. So nonetheless, no Saints, no Olave props for me. No bets in this game now. And honestly, if we get out of here in time, it might switch to Cincinnati if I can get it under that 3 number. Let's go Baltimore Ravens, New York Giants. Everybody's favorite. The New York Giants are now the lovable winners of the NFL.
4 years after I've been calling them as the dark horse of the league.
Well, you'd be amazed what a coach who could manage a game can do for you. All right, Ravens come into town coming off a nice win versus Cincinnati Bengals after those two sort of, tough losses to the Bills and the Dolphins. 4.5. This one just felt like a New York line to me, like they want every Giants fan to sort of pour money on the Giants here, getting 4.5 points at home here. But I didn't end up taking it, but I definitely lean towards Ravens here. I do think, as fun as it is to watch the Giants win game through smoke and mirrors, this just seems like one step above what they are capable of doing. You want to beat up the Green Bay Packers who decided to get up, 14-0 and quit playing football, which is becoming a trend. That's one thing, but I just think the Ravens will be able to handle them pretty good here. I think they'd cover this. I'm not huge on road favorites, so that's why I didn't end up putting it in. But what do you make of Ravens-Giants here?
Again, I do think that the Giants are definitely a lot better this season, especially when it comes to being coached. They're definitely a lot better this season than a lot of us probably anticipated. At one point, they had the top rushing attack in the league, and I think that they're very limited on weapons, but they've been making do with what they have. All that being said, this Baltimore team is a little bit different. You're talking about one of the better teams, maybe not elite at this point, but still one of the better teams in the league. You're talking about one of the better quarterbacks in the league with Lamar Jackson. I don't have a lot of plays in this game, but I've got a few here, and I'll give them to you. I'm going to go ahead and ride the Ravens here, -5.5. And that's simply because I just think they're a better team. I know they're on the road, but this Giants team, I'm not sold on them yet. Yeah. They're playing better, and it's an improvement, especially from what we thought they were going to do. So I'm not trying to downplay their success so far. I just think the Ravens are a better team. So I'm going to ride the Ravens -5.5. I'm going to take the Lamar Jackson anytime touchdown, which is +120. Probably not the best bet here, but with Lamar Jackson, you never know. And I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, New York's defense probably gives up the most rushing yards, or top 10 in rushing yards given up to opposing offenses. So good chance for Lamar Jackson to break off a big one here. And my last one here is Jones, over half an interception at -110. And again, not a lot of plays here in this one. But I just think that there's a difference in caliber of these two teams.
Yeah, right on the money here. You mentioned the Giants' sort of bad play against the run. I watched J.K. Dobbins last week. He looked more explosive than I'd seen him early. So I'm going to ride the Dobbins here and see if this is his best game, since coming back from the injury. So I got the over 43.5 and then the 100-plus rushing yards at 8-1. I want to see if Dobbins can get back into the groove here and carve these guys up, hit a couple explosive runs. I liked what I saw from him last week. 100 rushing yards, J.K. Dobbins, 8-1, over the 43.5 J.K. Dobbins rushing yards. And my last one, I'm going under Daniel Jones rushing yards. Now, they have been running him like crazy, but he's still not 100% healthy. I don't know if they're going to be willing to, run him out into space versus this Baltimore defense. And the number is 36.5. So I have Daniel Jones under 36.5 rushing yards this week. I think they'll be a little bit more careful with him. I thought he managed the game really, really well last week versus Green Bay. So I just think he'll hit that number under. I think the Ravens will be better prepared. They are, so far this year, they've been better against the rush than the pass. So those are the three I have. I didn't grab the spread, but I certainly do think Baltimore's the play here. I think they put that number out there really. So a lot of New York Giants fans go out and grab that thinking that 4.5 is a jewel to their eye.
Yeah, you mentioned the defense passing and rushing for Baltimore. First or 32nd in the league in passing yards to quarterbacks. I believe seventh most in passing touchdowns to a quarterback. So not great, but yeah, you hit it on the head, man. I could totally see a scenario where Dobbins finally kind of breaks out here, especially if they can get up big early enough and they just start kind of running the ball. There's also a really good chance for Lamar if that's the case. So I like your picks.
All right, let's go to the big money game of the day. This is probably the biggest one I've done all year. We're going Minnesota Vikings, Miami Dolphins, and Dolphins are getting 2.5 here. I think I saw some 3 some places, but
that's what I got it at.
Yeah. So Minnesota, who is 4-1. Possibly, I don't know if it's worse than the Giants 4-1 or better, but I believe they've trailed in every game so far this season. They've had to make ridiculous comebacks in both their last 2, one of them being the Lions, who just got shut out 27-0 by the Patriots. So, yes, Vikings 4-1. But I'm not really sold that this is a 4-1 team of the caliber of the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm really big on the Dolphins here. Skylar Thompson or not, I think with a week to prep, Skylar Thompson will be all right. So what do you make of this game?
I'd like to be on the same side as you, but our thinking is a little bit different here. I think that if Tua was playing, or even if they had their number 2 quarterback, I think it'd probably be I'd lean more towards your end of the spectrum here, but I'm going to go ahead and ride with Minnesota here, -3. I know they've struggled a little bit, but their passing defense has actually not been that bad. It's really a rush defense that has struggled so much so far this season. So I'm going to ride Minnesota -3 here. I've also got Minnesota first quarter, because I think if they're going to win this game, they got to get up early. And we know that they had the weapons to do it. We've seen it done a few times this season where they just get it big. Their problem is that they can't maintain that gap between them and the opposing team. So I'm going to ride Minnesota -3 for the game. Minnesota first quarter at -0.5 point. I've also got Madison here at over 25.5 rushing/receiving yards, -115. We've seen him get utilized more and more, especially when it comes to third downs. They tend to kind of look for him and pass the ball. I think Miami's defense can do enough to get some pressure on the Vikings and cause them to check down. So I like that Madison one. And I'm also going to write the under in this one with as many injuries to some of the star players we have. I think that their points can kind of be either one-sided or come at a premium here. So I'm going to write the under at 45.5, -110 here.
All right. So, you know what makes me feel good? When you're on the Vikings, because that usually means Cousins is about to throw
Yeah,
4 picks.
yeah, and it's not just because I need him on fantasy. That's not the only reason why I'm taking him. But yeah, I need him on fantasy.
All right, so I'm going with the Miami Dolphins. I found a 3.5 line earlier today, so Miami plus the 3.5. I got 12.50 on that. My biggest bet of the year so far. We're going touchdown scorer Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Mike Gesicki. So we're taking 3 touchdown scorers in this one. I think one person of those will catch a touchdown pass. Hill is plus 135, Waddle is plus 155, Gesicki's plus 360. So good value in Gesicki, I think, there. We're going with, of course, the Kirk Cousins interception at plus
I knew that was coming.
And lastly, we're going to take our man, Skylar Thompson, with a week to prepare, not being thrown into the game out of the cold like last week. Skylar Thompson, 1.5 touchdown passes, plus 135. So I'm really big on the Dolphins here. I do think this Minnesota Vikings defense is susceptible. I've watched them each week. They sort of win, but they haven't played that tough a schedule. Like I said, they've been behind it every game they've played so far this season. They've had to make ridiculous comebacks. I think going down to Miami, thinking they got an easy play here versus Skylar Thompson, I think the Dolphins sneak this one out, and then theoretically, Tua comes back next week. I know they were trying to hint around Tua coming back this week. I'm assuming the NFL
wasn't happening.
shut that down pretty quick. I'm surprised they got the okay to play him next week, but nonetheless, we'll see if Tua can make his way back. But big bet on the Dolphins here. I love the Dolphins in this spot, plus 3.5. Let's go to our next game. I honestly don't know what to make of this. New York Jets at the Green Bay Packers. Packers minus 7.5. I assume the Packers get up 10-0, 14-0, 17-0, decide the game's over, and then watch a defense with a lot of really good players just sort of give up 8 yards at a time. So luckily, we have not been on the last 2 weeks to hammer the Green Bay Packers or their defensive coordinator, who literally is possibly doing the worst job I've seen of a coordinator so far this year. But do you trust the Jets enough to go into Green Bay here and cover the 7.5?
I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I can trust either team here.
Yeah.
We've seen so many inconsistencies from both teams now. I know that at least for the Jets, you have the built-in excuse of our quarterback was hurt and he's just getting back. He's starting to get healthy again, starting to build a rapport with his offensive weapons. But even then, there's just too much inconsistency here. So I've got 2 plays on this one, and I'll be honest with you. These are more just feelers. I really have no clue whether I'll actually fully commit to these or if I'll just drop a few bucks on them just for fun. And I'll tell you what they are here. How I feel about this game. That's how confident I am in both sides of the field. I feel like the most consistent thing we can get out of this, which we've seen no consistency from either, is the rushing attack from Green Bay.
Yeah. I got one play here. Zach Wilson interception at minus 185. He seems to throw one up every week. So Zach Wilson interception for me. Only thing I'm touching in this game. A part of me early probably thought this is maybe the game Green Bay blows out. But, I mean, literally, it's every week. It's for sure 3 weeks in a row where they've gotten up, 10, 14, and I think 16-0, and then they just assume the game's over, and they don't score another point for 3 quarters. I just, so I see where they can get to the blowout point, but they seem to pack it in and just think, okay, we've gotten up, now let's quit, which is sort of a rollover from the playoff where they got up 10-0 and just sort of was like, okay, San Francisco's not going to points. When you're giving the Jags points, you know who's there. Champ. 2 bad weeks in a row for Trevor Lawrence. But the one thing Trevor Lawrence does do He owns the Colts. He owned them earlier this year. He owned them twice last year. So I'm going to ride the the Jags getting 2.5 points here. Jonathan Taylor out. Naheem Hines out. Somehow the Colts have 2 wins. I know why they won the game on Thursday night last week. Mostly Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson are conspiring to ruin everybody's gambling lives. But nonetheless, I'm taking Jags here plus 2.5. I like this one.
I've got a few plays here for this one, and I'm riding with you, man. I think that the Jags get back on track here. They've been playing really impressive football from the beginning of the season. I think it caught a lot of us off guard. Well, maybe not you, since you're a huge Jacksonville fan, but that's neither here nor there. So I'm going to ride with Jacksonville money line
lose
here.
Me money for the 3rd week in a row. I might be
You're done.
Well,
listen, I'm going to ride with the Jacksonville money line here at plus 100. I'm also going to go ahead and ride the Kirk anytime touchdown plus 165. I rode that one last week also. It didn't pay off for me, but I feel like he's their number one weapon. They target him a lot, so I like that one. I'm also going to ride with the Robinson anytime touchdown plus 120 here. Kirk to score and the Jags to win at plus 275. And Robinson over 39.5 rushing yards at minus 120. So those are my plays for this one. I just don't understand how the Colts, I know they're at home. I just don't understand, based off the performance, just the eye test alone.
Yeah, I know.
How they're favored in this one.
How do you watch them last week and go, I want to take that team favored by 2 points?
Yeah. And listen, and don't get me wrong, I was a huge supporter of the Colts. I thought that they'd make a lot of noise this season, especially with Matt Ryan in their center, but it just hasn't worked out. It hasn't panned out, and I don't know what it is, but I don't think they can fix it overnight. So give me the Jags here.
Yeah, I love the Jags plus the 250 on that. We're going to go heavy into Travis Etienne. He still continues to drop touchdown passes, but he started to break a handful of tackles and get some yardage. So we're going touchdown score, Travis Etienne plus 210. We're going Travis Etienne 80-plus yards at plus 750 on that one. So I think Etienne gets the bulk of the running back carries this week. 80-plus yards plus 750 on that one. And then, of course, this is basically like stealing money right now. Matt Ryan interception. It's going to happen. It would be more likely that 2 happen than none happen at this point in time. So Matt Ryan interception minus 125 on that. So we're loaded up here on the Jags to sort of get back on track here in the AFC South. Let's go to 2 of our favorite teams, the Arizona Cardinals. I must admit, I'm really sad we didn't get to do a show for the Kyler Murray slide and spike. As 2 of his biggest fans and watching him game manage that, we missed that one. But Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks getting 2.5 here. It's not on my straight bets, but I will admit, once 4 o'clock rolls around and that Dolphins money has hit the account, there might be some of that slid into the Seattle Seahawks getting 2.5 here. What do you make of Arizona, Seattle?
Yeah, being a Ram fan here, I'm a little torn as to who I want to pull out the win here. I love these memes. I don't know if you've seen them. They've got these memes going on with the Arizona quarterback about Call of Duty. I don't know if you've seen them.
Yeah.
I believe Call of Duty drops this week, and they're like, I can't believe anyone's going to take Kyler Murray on the week that Call of Duty drops. So I had a lot of fun watching those, but I really don't have any straight plays here. I got 2 prop bets in this one. I have DK Metcalf anytime touchdown at plus 110, and I've got Brown over 69.5 receiving yards at minus 115. And that's all I feel confident in here. I do like Seattle. I just don't feel overconfident or confident enough to take them. So I'm just going to go ahead and write some prop bets in this one and just kind of hope that either they tie or somehow both lose. So this should be a big win for me.
All right, I got some fun ones. We're doing the FanDuel 100-yard specials today because I'm
Let's hear
assuming
it.
someone on Seattle's going over 100 yards. So we got Lockett receiving yards 100 plus at plus 280. DK Metcalf 100 receiving yards at plus 250. And then the new running back of the Seattle Seahawks, sadly, Rashad Penny.
Yes.
Caught fire finally, and then, of course, his ankle snapped.
Or they decided to utilize him, and then maybe they knew something we didn't know. That's why they were keeping him shelved.
They knew Rashad Penny's career can never have too many good things. Is pretty much the sum up of his career. But nonetheless, Kenneth Walker takes over. He ran really, really well versus Saints last week. 100 plus for Kenneth Walker, plus 490 for that one. So we're going with the hundreds. Lockett, Metcalf, Walker. Hopefully we can get two, but one should cover your bet enough here. All right, let's move to L.A. I want to know.
LA?
You know which LA. And I want to know if our bold Ram fan here is ready to take the Los Angeles Rams minus 10.5 versus the Carolina Panthers here. I must say, I don't know what season they're watching the Los Angeles Rams, but I'm not sure it's been this one. 10.5, even for this crappy Carolina team, seems like a lot of points right now.
I agree with you. I could not believe my eyes. I thought, if anything, they'd be like a 5.5 point favorite or something. But 10.5, there's no way I'm touching that. Now, I love the Rams, okay? Everyone who knows me knows this. But they're not a good team right now. They really aren't. And I'm okay saying that because you know what? I'm wearing a nice championship sweater hoodie here.
I thought you'd have your Cam Akers, where are you, jersey on.
Oh, listen. In my opinion, now I'm hopefully me saying this kind of turns it around here. But in my opinion, Cam Akers is done. I just see no get it from him. I see no explosion. I see no drive. I'm looking at Henderson. Now, I'm looking at some stats here. I was reading some stats, and I didn't understand it because it says that based off the offensive line push, when they push forward on running blocks, the Rams have one of the most efficient run block teams in the league, yet you look at their rushing attack, and it doesn't translate.
Are they counting the run yards that Matt Stafford runs for in the backfield?
They might. They might.
Get away from defensive ends.
They might be counting those. It could be a thing. I'm not sure. We're gonna have to check with our stats and info department. But it just, I think a lot of it comes to Cam Akers because they're trying to get him going and it's just not working. Just giving it the old eyeball test. Henderson looks like the better runner. He looks like he's fighting for more yards. He's pushing forward. Now it's not great, but it's better. So you'll see how confident I am in this spread here when I tell you what my picks are for this game. Okay, I'm gonna go.
I was gonna say maybe Switek should get some carries here.
Listen, I'm not surprised. They might call me in to get a few carries myself. So I don't know how that would work out, but let's go. I'm gonna ride the Rams over here. This one, and 40 Rams get. Spread even at home, even with the defending champs, not touching it. So give me the over 41.5 points at minus 110. I've got one. This is more of a feeler. Just kind of I'm doing this one for the wife because she tried to get me to do it a couple of times and I refused to, and it hit, and I felt like a big dummy for not taking it and listening to her. Cooper Kupp, 2 or more touchdowns at plus 140 here. It's the only thing that has value with Cooper Kupp scoring. There's no value in him just getting one touchdown here. So I'm going to write that one for just a few bucks on that one. I got Henderson over 13.5 rushing attempts at minus 130 here. McCaffrey over 4.5 receptions. Again, I think this Rams defense is going to be able to get after this Panthers offense, and you're going to see a lot of dink and dunks and dumps to the running backs here. So I like this 4.5 receptions here. And I'm also going to take the Rams first quarter at minus 3. That's the only way that I can take a Rams spread here is that first quarter minus 3. Other than that, though, I just think it's really tough to gauge. This Rams team is not what they were last year, and this is not what we thought they were going to be.
Yeah. I got one play on this game, and you mentioned, dinks and dunks from P.J. Walker, who, I like. I've been on him a couple different years here when he's gotten a chance to spot start, but I do think he'll check down a lot. You got the receptions for McCaffrey. I got the yardage, receiving yards over 39.5. I just, there'll be 4 to 6 checkdowns here, and, so far from what we've seen from the, Rams defense, they're more than happy to give you 8 to 10 yards, a spot on a check down here. So I thought that one was pretty easy. 39.5 over minus 115. That's basically all I wanted from this game because there's, the play really is the Carolina Panthers take that 10.5 points, but there's just been too much chaos there right now. So I didn't want to grab that. And, I'm not touching the Rams till I see them, 24 plus points and not have to throw the ball to Cooper Kupp 75 times each freaking game. Have to spread it around at least, a little bit here. So McCaffrey over receiving yards for me on this one. Next up, the two next ones are the big games of the week, minus, of course, the Vikings and the Dolphins. But that's big only in my world. Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs, first time. Patrick Mahomes, dog at home. Are you riding the Kansas City Chiefs here, or are you flowing with Buffalo to, sort of roll them up here?
Oh man, I was so torn in this one. I was looking at that playoff game from last season, and I don't know, man. I have a really hard time with this one. This is one of those games that I really don't want to put any bets on. Now I have a few, but I don't want to put any bets on. I want to sit back, watch it, and enjoy it because it's supposed to be such a huge matchup here. Probably the biggest matchup of the year so far. So I'll give you what my picks are on this one, and we'll just kind of go from there. I've got Davis here, anytime touchdown, plus 120. I've got Edwards-Helaire, anytime touchdown, plus 110. Diggs to score in Buffalo to win, plus 180. Allen, longest pass, over 38.5 yards, minus 115. Diggs, over 87.5 yards at minus 120. And my last one, Helaire, over 59.5 rushing / receiving yards at minus 115. I know that there's improved defenses on Buffalo's end of the ball, but I still think that this game's going to be a shootout. And it's pretty much going to come down to what it did last year, which is who's got the ball in their hands at the end of the game. I do think that Kansas City got a little bit weaker on offense. Now, they do have the ability to spread the ball a lot more now that Tyreek Hill's not there. But I do think that talent-wise, they're a little worse than they were last season, where Buffalo, I think, got a little bit better on defense than they were last year. So I think this game's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So I've got a ton of bets on this, a lot of prop bets, but I'm mostly interested in what this game's going to turn out like.
Yeah, I'm more interested in that. I got a fun one, though. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills minus 3409 for that to bump the spread up, I guess, let's see here, 10 points, 11 points. So Buffalo minus 13.5 plus 409. But then I'm bumping the Chiefs to plus 3.5. So I figure this game is going to go two ways. We're going to either get the tight, close game, or Buffalo's going to go in there, roll them up. The Chiefs offense, which you mentioned, it has been a little less explosive. Can't keep up with the Buffalo offense, who starts piling on points for fun. And you've seen if Buffalo gets up on you by, 2 touchdowns or so, that turns into like 5 touchdowns pretty quick. So I'm playing both sides here. Buffalo minus 13.5 plus 409. Kansas City plus the 3.5 minus 140. So I got 125 on the plus 409 13.5 and 250 on the minus 140 plus the 3.5. So we either need it close and I sort of break even, or the Bills roll away with this thing and I clean up with a little profit. I didn't want to take any player props in this one because I was a little worried that Kansas City might try to slow this pace down in the first half, and that would sort of screw some of the player things up. So I just stayed away from them mostly too, because now Buffalo's every one of those dudes is a little more lopsided than they were. I was sort of hoping we'd get a game where Gabriel would suck before he came back, and then I could jump all on him. And I think his second play, he went for like a 98-yard touchdown. That didn't work out too well. All right, let's go to the next big game. Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas just been playing. Can Dallas go up there and give the Eagles a game, or do you think the Eagles run away with this here?
I think they can. The thing about this Dallas team, offensively, there's still question marks there. We've got CeeDee Lamb's the number one guy, but yet he doesn't produce. And then all of a sudden the quarterback gets hurt. Like, oh, this is what we thought he was going to be. When they simplify the offense tends to run a lot smoother for Dallas. But the defense is legit. There's no question about it. They've got some playmakers there. And I feel like their defense is good enough to keep Philly's offense at bay for a little while. I don't know if it can last for the entire game, which is why you're going to need Dallas's offense to be able to do something here. For that reason, I don't really have a spread play here on this one. I keep getting texts from the wife saying, fix your internet. And I'm trying to tell her, there's a freeze warning here. I can't control the weather, okay? And we're going live, so we can't even edit this.
No, fix your internet.
I can't do anything. I restarted my internet before we started going, too.
We only got one more game.
Sanders over 12.5 receiving yards at minus 115. And my last one, Pollard over 43.5 rushing / receiving yards at minus 115.
Yeah, I got one sort of play here. I'm going to ride the trend that we've seen. Eagles play really well in the first half and then just sort of try to hold a couple cheapies there. At the end, I lose money. So I'm going Eagles first half minus 3.5 in this one. And I'm really interested to see if the Cowboys offense can sort of hold up here. They've been playing a pretty basic style. We'll see if that style sort of works here versus... I guess you'd have to say right now the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. I mean, they haven't really played anybody, but...
but you have, just based off record, yeah. I mean, you have to, I guess.
I don't think either of us would be a real aggressive in saying Tampa Bay or the Rams. We take over them right now. So so it's like Eagles. I would not go Vikings because we saw what happened when the Vikings played the Eagles. So I don't know. Eagles, I guess, best team in the NFC right now. Two teams who are not the best team in the
prime time, baby.
Well,
prime time.
But whenever you could throw Russell Wilson on prime time, I guess you have to do it this year. Broncos Chargers 5.5 for the Chargers. I don't know how, but honestly, I lean a little bit here Broncos plus the 5.5 because well, all I know is I watched that game Thursday night, but then I watched your boy coaching the Chargers decide to go for it on a 4th and 1 on the 46 up 2 on the other side of his field. So honestly, there should just be a bet on which one of these coaches manages to ruin the last 2 minutes of the game worse and hands the other team the win.
See, but then the problem you got there is that both of these coaches will probably do it. So who wins at that point?
I don't know. Probably the Russell Wilson random passing play that probably shouldn't be called when the Colts haven't driven down past the 40-yard line all game long. All right. Nonetheless, Broncos, Chargers, I just thought 5.5 seems like a lot. Granted, I don't know what the Broncos have shown me other than a lot of their games are sort of close and miserable to watch. The Chargers, a lot of their games are sort of entertaining, but miserable to watch too, because you usually have money on the Chargers like we did last week.
Like I will this week.
So, what do you make of Broncos Chargers?
Listen, I'm going to give it to you here. I'm going to go ahead and write the Chargers. I got them at minus 4.5. I'm going to write the under 45.5 because I don't know if the Broncos can put up enough points to cover this. I've got the LA Chargers first half minus 3 at minus 110. I've got Mike Williams, anytime touchdown, plus 100. Austin Eckler, first touchdown of the game. Now, this is first touchdown of the game. This not just the Chargers one. So at plus 450, not a lot of value there, but I mean, who are you going to take from Denver to score from? So my next one here, Russell Wilson over half an interception at minus 140. And my last one, Eckler over 59.5 rushing yards at minus 115.
All right, so you're loaded up on this game. I have one.
Just for fun.
Russell Wilson rushing under 16.5 yards. I would advise just taking the Russell Wilson rushing total. I don't care if it gets to 5 yards, to the point. So Russell Wilson under 16.5 minus 115. Maybe by Monday night I'll have talked myself into it, or maybe I can talk myself out of watching this game and sparing myself, or doing something dangerous like actually betting on the Broncos here. So I don't have much analysis on this other than I want my bet on which coach will bungle the final 2 minutes of the game and cost themselves a win here. I lean a little towards Nathaniel Hackett because somehow he's managed to be worse in his 3 games than the Chargers coach. But the Chargers coach somehow got away with it. I think if Cleveland had kicked the game-winning field goal last week, I might have changed my mind. But anyway, I got a couple parlays to get into. Moneyline parlay, Cowboys and Seahawks plus 650, so a nice little underdog parlay there. Jags Dolphins moneyline parlay, a small little underdog parlay at plus 349, and then the touchdown pass parlay. Matthew Stafford over 1.5 touchdowns. Yes, I don't think has thrown a touchdown pass since week 2, but hopefully this is the week. Matthew Stafford over 1.5. Tom Brady over 1.5. That's plus 145. And then I got a fun one, the best one of the year. We're going to do a round robin parlay. By twos. So we're doing 62.50 on that, which equates to 625. If I hit every one of these, 6,250. The underdog special. We're taking the Panthers, the Steelers, the Dolphins, the Broncos, and the Falcons. So 5 underdog teams. I feel like it might be one of those fun NFL weeks where a couple of these underdog teams that we all think are terrible and are terrible sort of sneak up and win. So round robin, by twos, Panthers, Steelers, Dolphins, Broncos, Falcons. We'll see if we can get 2 of those to sort of break even. And if we can get 3, we're winning money here. So anything left for you to bet on?
Yeah, I've got 2 3-leggers here. I know we're getting a little close to kickoff time, so I'll do these really quick. My first one, Bengals minus 3, Jaguars money line, and Rams money line plus 377. And my second one, 3-legger also, under 46 in Tampa Bay Pittsburgh game, under 45.5 Denver Charger game, and over 41.5 in the Carolina Ram game at plus 595. So those are my 3-leggers for this week.
All right, so that's our show. Be sure to get your bets in. I have to run now and try to get my bets in. The wife got her bets in, and I don't have mine quite in yet, so I got to finish up getting the bets in. Be sure to like and subscribe. I think we'll get back on our regular schedule now that we're healthy, so let's hope that happens. That's our show, and we're out.